it's a really amazing opportunity to get to do something so different that far into a television show. You know, you spend all these years playing a character, and as much as I love Emma, and I will always love Emma, a new challenge is always really exciting. So I felt like it was a really great opportunity as an actor to be able to try something new and have it be an extension of who Emma was, but have it be a very different side of her. And Eddie Kitsis and Adam Horowitz, who are the showrunners, were really very inclusive with me about that in terms of exactly what she looked like and what her costume looked like and how she moved and the hair and the makeup and the motivation and all that stuff. They were very collaborative with me about that, and it was very fun to be a part of creating all that.
Thank you.
It's always tricky to choose because I have things about all the seasons that I love so much, but I think the first season holds a special place in my heart in terms of Emma not knowing about the curse and her regaining family that she didn't know about and reconnecting with Henry, and I feel like the journey that Emma got to go on in the first season was really special.
Thank you very much. Have a nice day.
Thank you. I don't know. I mean, those guys came up with such incredible stuff. I could never hope to dream up something beyond the things that they gave us to do. I feel like we did all sorts of wild things, especially when Emma was Dark Swan. I really, you know, I really enjoyed, like I said earlier, I really enjoyed that story arc, and thought it was an interesting thing for a character who's been so driven by good to suddenly be faced with the darker parts of herself, and thought that was an interesting metaphor to look at, and you know, how tricky it became once Hook was also dark and all the things that they went through together. And, you know, it was that last scene with, I don't know if it was the last scene, but one of the later scenes where Emma has to kill Hook, Dark Hook, is, you know, it was brutal. It was absolutely brutal, but was also really rewarding to shoot a scene that was so, I guess, complicated and kind of dark.
Thank you.
Sure. I don't know, I'm trying to think on Once Upon a Time. Once Upon a Time for me, really, the musical episode always stands out. That's always an episode that I really remember, and it was a lot of fun. I also go back to the Back to the Future episodes with Hook and Emma kind of going to the Enchanted Forest. Those are episodes that really stood out as well, mostly because Colin and I ate a lot of pizza during that time. Yeah, I would say those are some of the stronger things that stand out.
Thank you so much. That was a great question.
I couldn't love more seeing all the leather jackets here. I mean it. I love it. It warms my heart. It makes me so, so happy. But I wore a red leather jacket for about 100 hours a week for 6 years. I probably will never wear a red leather jacket again. I love it, don't get me wrong. I love it with all my heart, and I love what it symbolizes, and I love that it says Emma to me. And every time I see a red leather jacket, even when someone doesn't realize it, I think that it's because of Emma Swan. I'm like, yeah, that's because of Emma Swan. Probably not, but I think it. So I love it, truly, truly, truly with all my heart. But I don't need to own one.
And the other question, what was your favorite costume to wear Once Upon a Time besides the leather jacket?
What was my favorite?
What was the favorite costume to wear on Once Upon a Time, except the leather jacket?
Oh, got it. Oh man, I felt like I got really spoiled in the end with some of the great dresses. I had beautiful dresses that Eduardo made, but I particularly liked I always call it the bedspread dress because it was made out of a bedspread. Not that anyone knew that, but it was made out of a lace bedspread. The white lace with the sort of drapey sleeves and I really liked that one. I guess that would probably be my favorite. The wedding dress was gorgeous too. I mean, a very intentional nod to Grace Kelly, but I love that as well.
And if you could be any other character on Once Upon a Time, who would it be?
I wouldn't do it. I just wouldn't do it. I would have no interest. I only want to be Emma.
Thank you.
And out of interest, was it only one of each dress, or did you have like copies just in case?
I think it depended on how much we wore stuff and how much we were in the forest, because the forest was really brutal on all the dresses. I mean, you know, by an hour in, the dresses were always wet to your knees, and you're dragging the forest with you, and you know, it was long, elaborate dresses in a wet, rainy forest. Are not a great.
You could mix it.
It was, who was I? I was talking to Sophie from Outlander about this. I was like, we were like, no one understands what it's like to be in the forest in a dress with petticoats and then have to go to the bathroom in an outhouse or in a porta potty. And we were really commiserating about what that really technically entails.
Yeah, it's a challenge.
She really understood. We've been there. Oh, I love the idea that everybody loves all sorts of pairings on the show. I love Swan Queen, I love Catholic Swan, I love all of them. Like, I feel like the point of, you know, watching a show is that you want to see yourself in it. You want to project your own desires and hopes onto the show. And I feel like it's a beautiful thing, you know? I mean, the show is written the way it's written, and we do our jobs, we show up and we do what's written. But if you guys are seeing other things in it, and you guys are seeing other potential relationships and connections, that's great. Then we feel like we're doing our jobs right.
Thank you.
Thank you. First of all, thank you. That's very sweet. I really appreciate that. You know, I don't know that I'll ever know how deeply I influenced that. I was her, you know, I played her for 6 years, and I'm sure that to some degree the writers are impacted by the choices that I was making and by the way that she was being portrayed, based on me making choices for her. And a lot of it was led by the choices that they made, you know, and the stories that they were telling. It's almost a question that you might have to ask the writers more than me, actually, because I don't know. You know, I show up to work and I do my homework and I build a character and I make a plan and I try to dive as deep as I can to bring someone to life in the most real way I can possibly figure out how to do that. And then I put it all out there, you know, and I'll never really know how much of what I was doing pushed the writers to do one thing or another thing, or how much was something that was already in their minds and they just sort of went down that path and I adapted to their path. So I'm sure it's a little bit of both, but I think the writers might be able to answer that better than me. And they did it in a way that was great. You know, we all worked with a vocal coach, this guy Eric Vitro, who was wonderful, and he kind of had a sense of exactly what the writers and the songwriters were interested in terms of like vocal quality for each song. So we worked with him, and then we went in and we pre-recorded, which is sort of what you do with those things when you go into a recording studio. And you have like a click track so that everything like is hitting at the right time. It's almost like a metronome that's like clicking in your ear as you're singing so that everything stays at the right rhythm. And the guys who wrote the music were there for that, and so they were there to kind of go, oh, this could be a little bit more emotional, or this could be more frustrated, or, you know, like they would sort of guide us with the way that they imagined the music when they were writing it. And then once that was all recorded, then they made like guide tracks basically. So then when we were on set, they would play back our pre-recordings and we'd sing along the pre-recording just to like keep it all in sync. And then at the very end, once everything was edited and put together, there were little bits and pieces of things they wanted changed. Then we went back and we did like the final recording for all of it.
Thank you so much for bringing one of my characters to life.
I don't know. I mean, I don't ever look at things like what I could change of them. You know, I feel like I really loved the show and I loved every moment of being a part of it. And I never really thought about it. I never really thought like, oh, I wish this was different or I wish that was different. I mean, if anything, you know, part of what I really loved was like, you know, when Joanna Garcia came up to work on the show, she's a good friend of mine. When Rose McGeiger worked on the show, she became a great friend of mine. I would have loved to have been able to have more friends that were like close to me, be a part of the show. But But the show is exactly what it was meant to be, and so I would never kind of want to like wish it to be different.
Okay, thank